Hey, what's up? Dusk here. So today we're going to talk about patch 1100. It's been out for about 2 days now, and we've all had a chance to play it, and so I want to talk about its effects on the game, the metagame, and I want to get some feedback from you all on some of your opinions and thoughts as well. So let's go ahead and jump in. Now, if you haven't read the patch notes, here they are right here. I'm not going to go over them all. I'm not going to read through all the patch notes because the patch has been out for 2 days and odds are most of you have already read these. But if you want to pause the video and read them yourself, let me get out of the way. There you go. You can just pause the video at various points there if you want to read over them. But now let's talk about all these changes in detail. We'll start with the planetary hazards, right? This one was really interesting. I still haven't seen any fire tornadoes because I haven't gone to any fire planets. I've been trying to do like the campaign goals and all that stuff. The things on Tain Quan, I think it's called. And there are just meteor showers there. So plenty of experience with the meteor showers. And I would tell you that these really make things a lot harder. Have had a lot of deaths to meteor showers, although some of them are because they buff the flashlight to a still completely pointless and useless state, but now it's a bigger circle, and that circle can sometimes cover up or blur out the light circle that you get as a warning that a meteor is about to strike that spot on the ground, right? So I found myself constantly turning my flashlight on, and then having my flashlight constantly turn itself. Well, I was turning the flashlight off, and then I would die, and it would just turn itself back on. I died several times to a flashlight hiding like a meteor strike, and so that was kind of annoying. But let's just talk about the mechanic itself. Overall, just the added difficulty, huge fan of. I don't like the idea that the Helldiver difficulty was becoming farm mode for so many people. I really like having things to look forward to and to work for and toward. And being just like, 2 weeks into Helldivers and all of a sudden we're all farming. You know, everybody who's played about a week or two of Helldivers was probably into the Helldiver difficulty mode. And, like, I don't love that. Especially because, like, my group, we kind of screw around a lot. We weren't doing, like, super organized tactics. I mean, you know, we're playing smart and trying to have, like, good loadouts and target selection, and we're communicating and all that stuff, but we were a far cry from being, like, an organized tactical unit, right? And we were still doing fine on Helldive. Previous to this patch. With this patch, Helldive was suddenly a little too hard, and we couldn't really handle it. But again, we weren't really doing like really high-end tactics and play and stuff, so I kind of like it like that. I really want the difficulty to be like a crazy peak and accomplishment to, you know, to really do well on the Helldive difficulty mode. Like, that really feels like it needs to be a pretty big bragging right. That you can pull off the Helldive difficulty, right? So I like these kinds of changes, honestly. And the great thing is you can go all the way down to the suicide mission difficulty, still get your super samples. Super samples still drop, and it's a much more manageable difficulty. Which, I'm not going to lie, we did drop off the Helldiver difficulty. We're just not ready for it at this point, but gosh darn it, that's the way I kind of like it. So I'm a huge fan of this stuff, and I hope they keep adding layers of this sort of stuff that really, like, complicate the game and make it so that this is a co-op game that does actually take a lot of mastery, right? Because, like, PvP games, I typically gravitate toward those because there's always, like, you know, player skill is ever evolving. So there's always, like, something to overcome other players' skill levels, right? Those games, like, organically grow on their own, but co-op versus AI doesn't. You get to a certain point, and then it becomes a flat plateau that never moves forward ever again once you hit that difficulty or that skill ceiling. So I'm a really big fan of Helldivers having a really high skill ceiling. Because now I can get away from the toxicity of PvP games and play this insanely fun game called Helldivers 2. Alright, so they buffed the eradication missions. We'll talk about these a little bit. Basically, these are now about as difficult as a standard mission. This is no more just like a freebie that you grab for XP. So, we haven't lost one of these yet, but we have come very close. So I think they're in a good spot. I'm curious if anybody has any opinions on that, if you disagree. But, you know, with the amount of respawns that you have available, we found it was often enough to kind of, like, trudge through it. I think we did have one where nobody survived, but, like, nobody got onto the drop ship, but we did kill, you know, the required amount of enemies to complete the mission. So I think that was on Helldive difficulty too. So I like that. I think this is in a good place, good healthy place. Weapons. The Breaker. They really didn't do much to it. They just tweaked it a little bit, and this is primarily because of the Breaker's popularity. I read the devs put out an in-depth letter that kind of explained their thought process behind all these balance changes. I just want to say I was really impressed by their approach. A lot of devs are not very good at reading data, because most game devs will tell you data never lies, which is like the dumbest thing you can ever say. Data will lie to you constantly if you don't have any context or framework to apply to it. Right? Like, you have to understand what your numbers are saying and representing, or they are just numbers. And to really, like, drive this point home, there are mathematicians that make an entire career out of data analysis. This isn't just something you hire some person off the street for minimum wage to do. Data analysis is a very complicated job field, and game developers are game developers. They're not data analysts. Well, the devs for Helldivers 2, like, the way they were talking is more like how a data analyst would talk. They had multiple points of data that gave them different perspectives, and then they talked about the in-game application of that data. They had a framework, the context, like the in-game context was also there, so that their numbers had more meaning and value to them, and that was like such a huge, like, thumbs up. I was like, finally. I don't think I've heard yet. I'm sure there are devs, but as far as the devs I've seen for the games that I've played, I've never seen a dev actually break down data correctly. So, and so basically what it came down to is they said they loved where the Breaker was. It was in a good place, but the damage per magazine, they said, is where it looked like it was overperforming. So that's why they decided to go with the nerf to the ammo capacity to help kind of even out the Breaker's performance. And so I think this is spot on. I think they nailed it with that. Whew. Now let's go on to the probably much more hotly debated railgun nerf. So yeah, now was this a case of overreaction? Because meta nerds have often over the years, and I've seen this in multiple games, where there's just an early assumption because they get a hold of something that is easy, like an item or a whatever that is easy to use and it's effective. And because of that, they deem it the most powerful thing, when in reality, it was just something that was easy to use, and they understood it, and they didn't take the time to understand the other stuff that was, in some cases, actually better and more powerful. But that wasn't the case in the railgun. The railgun was just absolutely way overperforming. It was really strong. Like, to the point that I actually quit using the railgun pre-patch. Excuse me. Because you could just feel it, man. It was the one-stop shop answer for everything in the game. 20 rounds to take out, a multitude of medium enemies, insanely high damage to take out highly armored targets. Playing the unsafe mode was super optional. And again, the devs gave their insight on this, and it seemed pretty thorough. That they applied the same logic and understanding of data analysis to the railgun. At first, I was a little worried that maybe it was over nerfed, but I don't know. I liked their breakdown and their explanation about how this is a convenient anti-armor item because it doesn't take a backpack spot up. not the strongest anti-armor. So I think their breakdown of it made sense, and I think where it's at now actually makes a lot of sense. It's still a fantastic gun. It'll do damage, it'll take out armor, you can still take a shield backpack or a guard dog or whatever you want with it. And it's there. It works, it performs. So I think the railgun is probably good where it is, but I'm curious what you all think. So give me your thoughts on the railgun. Next, let's talk about the flamethrower. I loved the flamethrower pre-patch. I thought it was great. I was super shocked to see a massive, insanely massive buff to this weapon. This blew my mind, because now the flamethrower is now an anti-armor option. Like, you can use this thing to take down chargers. Not quickly. You're going to have to dance with the charger, but, like, it'll do that now, which is crazy to me. But, at the same time, the flamethrower comes with an inherently large amount of risk, because you have to get up in the swarm or, whatever you're fighting. Like, you got to get in there and get close. You got to set yourself up to get overrun and swarmed. And, like, the flamethrower is a dicey weapon. So maybe the insanely high damage is actually warranted. I'm kind of biased because I love the flamethrower so much. So I kind of want to lean into saying, like, you know what? I'll take it. Sure, why not? But I've heard some people say that they think it's still too weak. I have a hard time seeing that it's too weak. But I'm curious, again, what you all think about that. So let me know in the comments on that. Now let's talk about the laser cannon. This is a fun one. I really liked the idea of the laser cannon. I tried to use it a bunch pre-patch, and then eventually had to quit using it because it just underperformed in every niche that I tried to apply it to. Well, again, I read the devs' review of this, and lo and behold, it was supposed to basically be a machine gun. Well, I didn't get that. I thought, like everybody else, that it was an anti-armor item on account of it having the word cannon in the name. Just like the laser cannon barrage that you call down from the artillery that is for killing armor, right? And the devs mentioned that they said it kind of made sense because, they mentioned the orbital laser barrage, right? They didn't mention the fact that it had cannon in there, but that's really what led me to believe that it was a cannon, because it said it was a cannon, right? But this was really interesting. So the devs designed this to be a machine gun, right? But after seeing how the community thought it should be used, how they played with it and all this stuff, they actually decided that their philosophy was actually wrong, and that it was actually better and made more sense thematically for it to be an anti-armor item. So they retooled it to be an anti-armor item, and I thought that was super cool and super transparent. And you don't see many devs say, hey, you know what, community? I think you guys might actually be right. Your idea is a little bit better than ours, so we're going to go with your idea on this one. You don't see that very often. If that ever happens, developers will usually reframe it like it was their idea, right? So, again, these developers are on top of it. The game is really buggy and janky, and I get really frustrated at the game, but boy, when you have developers this cool, it's sure easy to just forgive it and be like, yeah, they'll get it, they'll fix it. The rest of the game is a blast. I don't care. The devs are cool. I don't care. Like this is how you be a game dev. Pay attention, the rest of the industry. This is how it's done. So I know as soon as I get like enough extra money, I'll be buying premium currency. I'll be throwing money at these fools because they've earned the money, right? They've earned it. So, but how is this change, and is it good now? Is the laser cannon in a good spot? The first day of the patch, I wasn't super sold on it, because in my eyes, when I look at the laser cannon, no matter how you play it, you're going to get punished. If you manage your heat, you're going to get punished because you have to wait for the heat sink to cool down, right? If you just blow in the heat sinks, then you get punished by an extremely painful reload animation that requires you to be static. Now, that's not true for the scythe, but for the laser cannon, you have to take a knee and be still. You have to be stationary to change that heat sink. So you're choosing which punishment you want. And I don't love that aspect of the laser cannon. Like, I feel like I was struggling to position well with it and get the weak points targeted and all that stuff. And today, one of my mods, Saren, was playing with it and championed this thing like all day, and started to notice that you didn't have to hit the weak points with it. On a lot of targets, you could just go into, the durable parts, right? Like the laser cannon just does a lot of damage. And while managing the heat is kind of a pain, it does let you focus an armored target and then switch to another gun and take out some chaff units and then switch back to your laser cannon. Like, it's basically a juggling act, and it comes with a cadence to it. And using it that way was noticeable at how strong the laser cannon was. I picked it up again and started using it on the second day of the patch after seeing Saren use it quite a bit. And once you get the cadence of the laser cannon down, it's absolutely fantastic. I'm sold on this gun now. Super solid. I actually see this being a potential meta pick. Curious what you all think about that one as well. Here's some, changes to the Punisher. I think, what did they do here? Increase the ammo capacity, increase the stagger force, increase the damage. 5 extra damage is nothing to sneeze at. That's actually pretty substantial, believe it or not. So, big buff to the Punisher. I think that's something some people probably need to look at. And the Breaker Spray and Pray. They upped the rate of fire, because this is the weakest per shot, right? This thing is weaker than the other shotguns, but it's got the highest rate of fire, and I think it still has the biggest magazine as well. So, like, this thing, if you decide to hold down the trigger, which you should be doing, if you bothered to take the Spray and Pray and you are not holding down the trigger, then you should have brought a different shotgun, right? If you're going to be conservative and just, like, bursty with it, doing little, like, burst fire things, take the Punisher or the Breaker, right? Taking the Spray and Pray means you're just going to hold the button down and just pound something to death, right? And in that sense, it does just that. I was having a lot of fun using this against the stupid, like, chainsaw arm automatons. You can just walk backwards and shred through, like, 2 of those sons of guns. So this is in a solid place. It's strong, but it definitely does not outshine Punisher or Breaker. So I think it's in a good spot. It might need a tweak or two. I think Breaker and Punisher are perfect. Spray and Pray feels great, but I feel like it might need another tweak of some kind, and I'm not sure. The biggest buff to it, though, was, again, like I said, the fact that it has some armor penetration. Before, this gun was useless, but yeah, curious what you all think about that, too. Energy Shield Backpack. This thing was nerfed pretty substantially. Increased the delay before recharging, but when it starts to charge up, it charges faster. It's almost like instant, right? I think this was to try and keep the energy field in a spot where it was not an extra layer of armor, but instead just more of like a periodic get-out-of-jail-free card, I think is what they mean for this to be. What do you all think about the energy shield? I think my instinct on this is that it's in a good spot now. The stratagems, the orbital barrages, increased duration and decreased spread. The increased duration I definitely noticed. We played a mission today where we had to destroy multiple automaton mortar facilities. So it was an actual, like, giant facility that was like the size of a castle, and most importantly, it didn't move because it was an effing castle, right? It was a giant fortification. This worked super well against that. I took the armor that had the throwing, the mechanical throwing arm, so I could throw it farther, and just lobbed that bad boy in there, and some other players did some airstrikes, so we saw airstrikes sweep in, and then the orbitals set in, and then it lasted for so long. And it was really cool to watch, and it actually took out the fortifications, the little mortar fortress thing, every single time. Because I guess it was just such a big target that it was just going to get hit. And so I really liked it. Like, that was really fun. But that was literally the only mission where the orbital barrage was still worth it. In every other case, they were still too spread out and still too inconsistent, and I just quit taking it again. Which sucks because I really, like, it's such a fun tool to have available, but it just feels like it's just not there yet. I don't know what they need to do with it, but it feels like it's missing something. I will point out, though, that I don't have the sample upgrades for this yet. I have the first one, but I don't have the second and third one that give it the extra shot, and then the 10% cooldown. I think it's still missing something. I think this is still a little on the weak side. Again, thoughts? Curious what you all think, if you disagree. And as far as the fixes goes, you know, I'll let you all read all over that stuff. The biggest one is that the armor values are now working properly. Super noticeable. I'm wearing heavy armor a lot now, and that's noticeable, and I really like it. Other people were running medium armor and liking that. I noticed everybody was wearing the armor type that fit their play style. And I think that's a good thing. So I think 100% of the community is really happy with this fix. But anyway, that's my thoughts, overview on the patch and the meta and all this stuff. Again, let me know what you all think in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.